In this update, we will talk about Poor Charlie's Almanack, a compilation of the investment philosophy of financial giant Charlie Munger. The book includes 11 of his speeches and various articles he has published over the past 20 years. As the subtitle suggests, this book is indeed Charlie Munger's wit and wisdom. When hearing the term wit and wisdom, many people's first reaction might be to dismiss it as chicken soup for the soul or self-help. But I must say, this is a great book unjustly underestimated by its title. Before diving into Munger's core viewpoints, let's first talk about Charlie Munger as a person. You might not be very familiar with him, but you surely know his partner, the Oracle of Omaha, Warren Buffett. Some believe that Munger is, in a sense, Buffett's mentor. Buffett himself has said that if anyone has had the most significant impact on his investment path, the first would be Benjamin Graham, known as the father of value investing, and the second would be Charlie Munger. Munger and Buffett are partners in Berkshire Hathaway, the company with the highest stock price in the world. In April 2017, its stock price reached $250,000 per share. Charlie Munger is one of the miracle makers behind this super profitable company. Born on January 1, 1924, in Omaha, central USA, Munger's life as a financial giant has not been smooth. By the age of 30, he had experienced a financial crisis, dropped out of school due to war, divorced, and lost a child. Many would be knocked down by such hardships, but Munger was not. Instead, he refined his character and gradually developed his investment wisdom through these trials. In his investment career, Munger adhered to the traditional spirit of the American West: diligence, focus, honesty, integrity, kindness, and frugality, which gained him the trust of many willing to collaborate with him. This allowed him to venture into various investment opportunities, eventually making his first $1 million in the real estate business. Afterward, using his keen analysis and thinking, he and Buffett acquired businesses like Blue Chip Stamps and invested in many high-quality companies, step by step building his financial empire. People who have interacted with Munger believe that his thoughts and methodology, or mental models, are very valuable. What unique life wisdom does Charlie Munger possess? Let's delve into that. I will first explain Munger's famous multidisciplinary thinking model, then discuss his inverse thinking method, and finally, how to use these thinking methods to build your knowledge system. Lastly, we will focus on Munger's investment strategies. Part 1. Many teachers recommending Poor Charlie's Almanack have mentioned Munger's multidisciplinary thinking model. Munger advocates constantly learning from various disciplines to form a composite framework of mental models. When you have only one tool, you can only work with that tool. So, Munger says the most important thing is to remember a series of principles like the compounding principle, permutation and combination principles, decision tree theory, and over 100 such models. When combined, they can bring tremendous power, acting together in the same direction, giving you more than the sum of their parts. The reason for constructing such a multidisciplinary thinking model is that, according to Munger, the universe is a complex whole, and all human knowledge attempts to study this complexity. There are no clear boundaries between disciplines, only mutual influence. Viewing things through a single thinking mode may distort reality to fit your mental model, leading to foolish mistakes. As Munger often quotes, "To the man with a hammer, everything looks like a nail." This reminds me a similar joke. A long-time beggar said, "If I became the emperor, I would still beg with a golden bowl." Though exaggerated, it reflects the limitations of a single-minded perspective. When we talk about multidisciplinary thinking, we often see it as a methodology. But essentially, it's an attitude towards understanding the world, an inclusive, systematic one, as Munger describes. Why is that? Let me try to explain. Have you noticed that the more mature a person is, the less they assert, and the more they explain from different angles? No assertions, only explanations means when faced with a problem, they rarely state assertive opinions like how the government should act, what is right or wrong, or who is good or bad. They don't discuss or judge. They care more about whether there are different explanations for a phenomenon if it can be seen from another perspective. Some might say this is just empty talk, but it's not. Concern for others' actions is empty talk. You interfere with others' practices. Caring about different perspectives on the world will manifest in your practice. In the transition from subjective understanding to objective practice, you must note the deep chasm between the subjective world and the practical world. The subjective world has many absolute principles, while the practical world only has just right actions. How to understand this? For example, in driving school, you learn traffic rules and mechanical principles of a car. These are in the subjective world, where you learn many principles. But once you're in the car and on the road, principles are of little use. Every moment of driving requires not just turning left or right, but finding that just right balance. In the practical world, every specific action, writing, crafting, playing sports, starting a business, is about finding that dynamic balance between contradictory principles. Every educated young person already has a built subjective world in their mind, understanding many principles. The remaining life task is to constantly deal with inconsistencies between the subjective and objective worlds, finding that just right balance. Isn't honesty a principle in the subjective world? But why is lying sometimes necessary in the objective world without being considered a moral flaw? Isn't law about pursuing justice? Why does it calculate costs in practice? Isn't hard work and kindness supposed to ensure success? Why, despite all efforts, do some still struggle? The saying, "I've heard so many principles but still can't live a good life," describes this phenomenon. This chasm between the subjective and objective worlds is always there, and falling into it is easy. Climbing out means bridging this gap, integrating inconsistent elements into oneself, and rebuilding the self. This process is called growth. The faster one grows, the more their mental world can accommodate complexity and diversity. So, Charlie Munger emphasizes multidisciplinary thinking models in Poor Charlie's Almanack. This concept is the glue between the subjective and objective worlds, a safety net preventing us from falling into the chasm. Now you may understand why we said initially that multidisciplinary thinking is a basic attitude towards understanding the world. Why do many mature people not assert, but only explain? Because more perspectives on phenomena help you grow. As an outsider, judging others, especially practitioners, on right or wrong is too easy and cheap. It just shows off your pre-existing principles without contributing to your growth. Applying it to your practice requires maintaining an inclusive, diverse perspective, allowing various ideas and explanations to coexist in your mental world, nurturing your practice together. Charlie Munger's multidisciplinary thinking model becomes a handy tool. Part 2. By now, you should appreciate the value of the multidisciplinary thinking model. We've emphasized that principles alone are useless. The key is applying them in practice. Let's use an example relevant to all lifelong learners. Building your knowledge system. Here, we introduce another thinking model, inverse thinking. Charlie Munger uses a method where, before deciding where to go, he first thinks about where not to go. He calls this inverse thinking. This method, often used in mathematical proofs, tests our thinking transferability. Many may use inverse thinking in math problems or elimination methods in exams, but seldom think this way in real life. Charlie Munger highly values inverse thinking. He believes for complex systems and the human brain, thinking inversely often simplifies problems. He usually first figures out what not to do before considering actions. Similarly, in building a good knowledge system, first identify bad knowledge systems to avoid them. A bad knowledge system typically has three characteristics: lack of depth, single-mindedness, and disorganization. First, lack of depth. This is easy to understand. No matter how broad a person's knowledge, it should be deep in at least one area. Knowing a little about everything but understanding nothing deeply makes it hard to connect phenomena to underlying principles, weakening your competitiveness. Second, single-mindedness. Single-minded knowledge systems lead to narrow perspectives. For example, the brand Muji found that long-term sales staff believed sales were the key to product success, while product developers believed product quality was crucial. Both views are narrow. Muji implemented cross-department rotations to broaden employee perspectives, avoiding single-minded solutions. Third, disorganization. We observe various phenomena, like Phenomenon 1 and Phenomenon 2, which might be explained by the same theory. Similarly, Theory 1 and Theory may second share a common framework. Disorganization means not discovering these commonalities, like randomly piled clothes. Over time, it increases cognitive load and creates a disorganized knowledge system. Knowing bad knowledge systems, let's discuss good ones. A good knowledge system resembles a letter T at the macro level and a letter Y at the micro level. Why T at the macro level? It means having deep expertise in one area with a broad multidisciplinary perspective, like the letter T. Who exemplifies this? Charlie Munger. This investment guru, along with Buffett, created the best investment record ever, with an average annual compound return exceeding 20%. Munger attributes his success to his early established thinking method, which he calls multidisciplinary thinking models. Simply put, you must know important theories from various disciplines and use them regularly, all of them, not just a few. Most people use only one disciplinary thinking model. An economist tries to solve all problems with economics, like the saying, "If you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail." This is a crude approach and usually ineffective in investment. Munger's approach is different. He uses multidisciplinary thinking. When investing in a company, he doesn't superficially evaluate its financials, but thoroughly analyzes its internal operations and overall ecosystem. This requires integrating analytical tools and methods from various disciplines, including history, psychology, mathematics, engineering, physics, statistics, and economics. Why so many disciplines? Munger says almost every system is influenced by multiple factors, so understanding such systems requires proficient use of multidisciplinary thinking. This is the T-shaped macro structure. At the micro level, why Y-shaped? In design, you might only use design knowledge. A Y-shaped knowledge structure means incorporating other types of knowledge into your work. For instance, combining design and cognitive science is a great Y-shaped structure. If designing a poster, consider what information the audience should get first, their emotional response, if it meets their expectations, if it piques their curiosity, and if they know what to do without thinking. A designer who understands cognitive principles, even basic ones, produces better work than one who doesn't. So, Y-shaped knowledge structures emphasize combining knowledge from at least two disciplines intentionally. Why intentionally? Most people, sticking to their expertise, won't incorporate other disciplines unless deliberate. Above are the core contents of Poor Charlie's Almanack we discussed. In today's society, building your knowledge system is crucial. What is a good knowledge system, and how do we construct it? We used Munger's inverse thinking to analyze bad knowledge systems and proposed good knowledge systems based on his multidisciplinary thinking models, outlining 3 steps: finding deep knowledge points, establishing a multidisciplinary knowledge system, and cross-applying knowledge. Part 3. You might ask, Munger is an investment god, so what's his investment philosophy? He has one. In the final part of our interpretation, we'll focus on his investment principles. According to Munger, investment projects fall into three categories: investable, non-investable, and too complex to understand. He only invests in investable projects, avoiding the other two. For instance, Munger never invests in the pharmaceutical and high-tech sectors, considering them too complex. How to assess if a project is investable? Munger has 4 criteria. First, the project must be easy to understand, have growth potential, and survive any market environment. Munger says to invest within your circle of competence. If you don't understand a project, don't invest, no matter how good it sounds. Don't overestimate your capabilities or blindly follow trends. Second, don't just look at financial statements. Consider both internal and external factors. Financial statements only show current value, not future profitability. Investment seeks future earnings. So, even if a company's financials look good, don't invest rashly. Consider various aspects, like the founder's character, supplier reliability, and inventory status. Third, assess a company's moat or industry barrier. The most important competitive advantage isn't current profits but future earning potential. To ensure continued profitability, build industry barriers. If a company has no barriers and low entry costs, future competitors will emerge, making it hard to predict who will succeed. So, a company's ability to establish industry barriers is crucial for investment worthiness. Fourth, investing in fairly priced big companies is better than low-priced ordinary ones. Considering potential future shareholder actions like additional funding or equity transfer, which can dilute shares and reduce dividends, big companies hold higher value and provide more stable returns. For instance, Munger and Buffett's investments in the Washington Post, Geico, and Coca-Cola are big companies. If a project meets the previous criteria, Munger invests heavily. Munger believes all intelligent investments are value investments. Evaluate a company's value, stock value, and competitive advantage to decide on holding its stock. To better understand value investing, let me share a story about Charlie Munger's investment partner, Li Lu. When Li Lu met Munger, Munger was nearly 80. They often met for breakfast at 7:30 a.m. The first time, Li Lu arrived on time, finding Munger had finished breakfast and read the newspaper. Feeling bad, Li Lu arrived 15 minutes early the second time, still finding Munger reading the newspaper. The third time, Li Lu came half an hour early, but Munger was already there. Finally, arriving an hour early, Li Lu beat Munger, who appeared with a stack of newspapers, leisurely ate breakfast, read, and then started their conversation. Meeting such a person, what would you think? Munger didn't boast. He lived this way consistently, demonstrating reliability, studiousness, and respect, earning respect from partners without extra words. Understanding this, you see the deeper meaning of Munger and Buffett's value investing. It's not about buying a stock and holding it long-term superficially. Value investing means rejecting speculation and evaluating stocks based on fundamental value. Stock prices are influenced by short-term factors, but the most important and reliable factor is whether the stock is worth its price. The best way to get what you want is to deserve what you want, is one of Munger's famous quotes. Viewed in isolation, it's typical motivational advice. But combining it with his value investing strategy, you see they're saying the same thing. One is the principle, and the other is the method. Recognizing their connection tests personal skill. In conclusion, many of the principles in Poor Charlie's Almanack boil down to this. Enhance your perception of the world by improving yourself, allowing internal abilities to grow and align with global trends. As this alignment increases, whether investing, starting a business, or any other endeavor, you will succeed. That's the essence of this book. You can click the description below the video to find the link to the book. Welcome to read it. You can also share this book with your friends. If you like the content of Daily Book Dive, click the subscribe button to stay updated. Your encouragement helps us continue bringing book essence to our community. Congratulations, you've finished another book.